Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, with my Week 8 2015 NFL predictions. Well, this week so far, I'm on pace to have another possible 8-6 week. Right now, I am 7-6, and what I need to happen tonight is for the Cardinals to beat my Ravens. So that'll get me to 8-6 back-to-back weeks. I'm not liking this streak I'm going on, having only 2 games above 500 in back-to-back weeks. And now overall for the year, I am 65-39. So I dropped another 0.07 of percentage to now 62.5%. I'm going in the wrong direction, guys and gals. You know, I want to be higher, and it's been a really it's really been a frustrating week for me, and for a lot of prognosticators out there. For most of us, there were 4 losses, okay, that nobody really expected. The Jaguars beat the Bills. Congrats for the Jaguars, though. It's their first win in London, I think, since having this agreement. And by the way, they signed a 5-year extension for that agreement, which will now run into 2020. And also, just for their sake, it's a great, boosting tool, especially when they blew the lead. They were up at one point 27-3. A team had a 24-point lead and ended up blowing it. I wonder what that reminds me of. I don't think any other. Oh wait, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did that, but I'll get to that later. I have a lot to say about that. But yeah, the Jaguars ended up blowing a 24-point lead and were down 31-27 with about 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And amazingly, the Jaguars scored all 27 of their points within about 6 minutes. And then they didn't score anything until that last drive when Bortles threw that nice 30-yard touchdown pass to Hearns. But again, kudos to the Jags, and it's a really big blow to the Bills. It hurts their confidence because they should not have lost. They should not have lost to that Jags team after you look at all the other teams that were able to beat the Jags. Nobody expected Jacksonville to win. Most people. Nobody really expected the Oakland Raiders to whip the Chargers the way they did. And again, the Chargers made it a nice competitive game. I think they went on a run where they scored like 29 points in the second half. But I think at that point, everybody knew that was garbage time. So I really don't. I guess you really can't put that much stock into putting up all those points. But nobody expected that. Most people didn't expect Pittsburgh, even with their third-string quarterback, to go into KC with all the weapons they still had. They still had Bell. They still had the 3 Bs, Bell, Brown, and Bryant, at their disposal. But kudos to the Chiefs. They played a really solid game. They got Landry Jones throw a couple horrible interceptions, and Jadarick West ran for 130 yards, his first 100-yard game. Kudos to him. He filled in nicely there for Jamal Charles. And most people didn't expect Indy to lose to New Orleans, just because we thought that Indy, could put this one good game together that they had against the Patriots and put that confidence in. But that obviously did not work. And and then the 2 games that I went out on a limb on, but I guess I believe just because I saw everybody else's picks from YouTube and the internet, were the Texans and Dolphins, which I have nothing to defend with. I have no defense for that game. I have to give a huge kudos to the Dolphins. I'll do that in my picks. And then, of course, the Redskins-Bucks game, which I am still fuming about, but I will get to that with my picks, which will start right now. Right after. Sorry, guys. Right after I tell everybody who's on bye this week. The Buffalo Bills, Jacksonville Jaguars, Philadelphia Eagles, and Washington Redskins are all on byes this week. So if you have the Bills defense, Tyrod, McCoy, like I do, Watkins, Clay, Bortles, Thomas, Hearns, Murray, Matthews, the Eagles defense, which was great last night, Sam Bradford, or as I like to call him, Sam Badford, even though I don't know if a lot of people still have Sam Badford on their teams, but on their fantasy teams, but I digress. And then Kirk Cousins, Garcon, and the Redskins defense. If you have any of those players on your fantasy teams, bench them because they will not be playing this week. Alright, time for my picks. This Thursday, when the 500, 3-3 Miami Dolphins go to New England, take on the 6-0 New England Patriots, I am taking the New England Patriots. And then on Sunday, across the pond, in the final UK game, when the 1-5 Detroit Lions go to the 2-4 Kansas City Chiefs, I am taking the Detroit Lions. When the 4-2 Minnesota Vikings go to the 2-4 Chicago Bears, I am taking the Minnesota Vikings. When the 5-2 or 4-3 Arizona Cardinals go to the 2-5 Cleveland Browns, I am going to take the Arizona Cardinals. When the 2-4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 6-1 Atlanta Falcons, I am taking the Atlanta Falcons. When the 4-3 New York Giants go to the 3-4 New Orleans Saints, I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints. When the 1-5 Tennessee Titans go to the 2-5 Houston Texans, I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans. When the 6-0 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 4-3 Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. When the 2-5 San Francisco 49ers go to the 3-3, I'm sorry, yeah. When the 2-5 San Francisco 49ers go to the 3-3 St. Louis Rams, I'm going to take the St. Louis Rams. When the 4-2 New York Jets go to the 3-3 Oakland Raiders, I'm going to take the New York Jets. When the 3-4 Seattle Seahawks go to the 2-4 Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks. And then on Sunday night, when the 6-0 Green Bay Packers go to the 6-0 Denver Broncos, I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers. And then on Monday night, when the 3-4 Indianapolis Colts go to the 6-0 Carolina Panthers, I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers. Alright, time for my thoughts on each game. Miami at New England. Let me say this to any Dolphins fans that watch my videos, or any Dolphins fans in general. I know in the NFL YouTube prognosticators, Stuart Madison is a big Dolphins fan. Shout out to him. Watch his stuff. He's pretty good. I will say this. I've underestimated him the last 2 weeks. Dan Campbell is doing a phenomenal job in presenting a resume that takes that interim tag off his title, and he will be the permanent official head coach of the Miami Dolphins. They've scored 41 points in the last 2 games, which is unbelievable compared to what they did last time. And they're just playing with a sense of intensity and passion that you just didn't get from Joe Philbin. Like, I have to say, Dan Campbell's first 2 games are better than what I've seen than what I saw Joe Philbin do in about a little bit 3.25 years. Ryan Tannehill only missed 1 pass yesterday. He had to throw for 200 yards and he had 4 touchdowns. They blew out the Texans 41-0. They scored a franchise record 41 points in the first half. I guess that was good for Miami fans because their college football team ended up being on the opposite end. Sorry, I had to bring it up for any U fans. 58-0, but Al Golden got fired, so I digress. But I have to give Miami a lot of credit. This team is playing up to its potential that I thought, and a lot of people thought, it could be. Jarvis Landry scored another 2 touchdowns. Lamar Miller ran for 175 yards. You're seeing that Lamar Miller that looked like a first-round pick. He's looking pretty decent now. Behind this offensive line. Unbelievable. And I have to give Dan Campbell a lot of credit. He's motivated these guys tremendously to play, inspired and, great football. But after all that being said, and don't be angry Dolphins fans, okay, I will say this. You could beat New England, you could, with your fire, because you have nothing to lose, you possibly could pull off a huge upset. But New England is 47-4 at home. Ryan Tannehill has never beaten the Patriots in New England. And I just have to go with New England because, again, New England, they played a AFC East type physical smash mouth game. It was very competitive back and forth. And actually, the Jets had the lead in the fourth quarter, which kind of surprised me that they actually had a chance to win. Or they had a chance that deep into the game to win. But again, Brady was Brady. He threw for another 300 yards, a couple TDs. On that last drive, they really couldn't stop Gronk. And on the touchdown pass, Gronk was, as open as the Red Sea. So, again, so kudos to the Patriots for being 6-0. Third time that's happened in the Bill Belichick era. So, that's a tremendous accomplishment to be undefeated this late in the year. But I'm going to take the Patriots just because it's just something that when you look at the undefeated teams, and especially with this one, it's hard to pick against them. And I'm going to say this to Dolphins fans. You guys play the Bills and the Eagles the next 2 weeks. If you can put up a fight against New England, I will most certainly, I think, after 3 weeks, take you guys to win those next 2 games. I know the Bills are coming off a bye, and the Eagles will just play the Cowboys after that. So, but I think Miami, if they can, they've sold me that this team can possibly maybe get a run into the playoff if they keep playing at this high of a level. But again, I'm going to take the New England Patriots to beat the Miami Dolphins. Detroit and Kansas City, this game is just, it's almost like the same image. You have 2 number 1 overall picks in draft classes. 05's Alex Smith taking on 09's Matthew Stafford. Both QBs have underperformed, but in different ways. Alex Smith has done very little, and he hasn't gotten the ball downfield and hasn't just made a lot of big plays. While Matthew Stafford, on the other hand, is making big plays, but he keeps making big mistakes. He's still second in the league with about nine interceptions. You have two running games, especially with Jamal Charles going down, that are headed by 2-headed monsters of Niall Davis and Shadarick West for the Chiefs, and Bell and Abdullah for the Lions. And you have 2 defenses that have, decent players, even though DeAndre Levy might be out for the year now with his hip injury. I know he didn't play yesterday. But, when you have two secondaries that, for the most part this year, have not been very good. So, when I look at this game, and it's kind of a disappointing game in London. Hopefully, with both teams being out equal, you get into a great even game. But, so in this game, I think that the reason why I took Detroit was just because of receivers. Jerry Maclin had a concussion yesterday, and he was out. And I don't know, if he's still in protocol, and if he can get cleared, if he's going to play. But if you're telling the Chiefs defense to take out Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate, compared to the Detroit defense saying, hey, cover Wilson and let's see, I'm trying to think. It was the guy that caught. Oh crap! I can't remember the guy's name. The guy that caught the game-winning touch, and Travis Kelce. It's like, hey, you guys have to cover those 2 guys. All you have to do in Detroit is cover Travis Kelce, because the other guys aren't really going to make that much of an impact. Yeah, and that's what it basically was to me for this game. Could Kansas City win this game? Yeah, they're motivated. They're on a huge high, beating a 4-2 Steeler team that clawed out 2 2 very important wins over 2 teams that they needed to beat to still be a little bit competitive in the AFC North. But I just think at the end of the day, Detroit just has too much offensive firepower at receiver that I don't think the Chiefs defense really can handle. Okay, and you can tell me that definitely, well, they were able to handle. Okay, maybe I'll put it this way: they have the receivers they can't handle, and they have a much better quarterback. Because unfortunately, Landry Jones, after having a very nice game against the Arizona Cardinals defense, which is one of the best in the league, he laid an egg against one of the worst and most injury-ridden pass defenses in the league in Kansas City. And I'll just say this: Stafford is a better quarterback than Alex Smith right now. Or Stafford just has a better arsenal of weapons and a better kind of arm to deal with KC's defense than Landry Jones did. So that's going to be the difference in the game, because I see the same kind of team. And I'll just take Detroit's offensive weapons over KC's in the receiver position, and that's the biggest difference, and that's why I'm going to take the Detroit Lions to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Alright. Minnesota at Chicago. Minnesota is like the Carolina Panthers of the second tier. And let me explain that. there are only 3 teams right now that are 4-2. You have all the undefeated teams, and you have Atlanta at 6-1. Okay, but then after that, you have all the 4-2 squads, and the 3 of them are the Arizona Cardinals, the New York Jets, and the Minnesota Vikings. Nobody's really giving contemplate that. The Minnesota Vikings through 6 weeks are 4-2. They have the number 2 scoring defense in the league. They are holding teams to 17 points per game, and they have the 7th best yards per game defense. That's incredible. Teddy Bridgewater had a very good game, and it's like Bridgewater, if he can just keep these kind of games up, I think he threw for about 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Stephon Diggs, Great Maryland Terrapin, Field of Turtle, had a 100-yard game, and he's really showing himself to be another kind of unique weapon that they can use. If they can get Mike Wallace and Patterson more involved, this team can be very interesting and very competitive. And of course, Adrian Peterson ran for 98 yards and he had that big 70-yard run that basically iced the game for the Vikings. But, I look at this Vikings team and I'm going, man, this team is pretty good. And I think that maybe we should give them more credit. Again, maybe it's kind of like in Carolina. They really haven't played anybody really good yet. They lost to the Broncos and they lost to the Niners. Okay, and then that one still might, blow people's minds, especially now. But their wins came up against, San Diego, Detroit twice. They beat, they beat Detroit twice, San Diego, and they beat, and they beat Kansas City. There we go. So yeah, they really haven't played anybody that good. So you can get, but hey, 4-2 is 4-2, and they're playing a Bears team that look, the Bears have really been competitive, and it's a tremendous credit to Adam Gase and John Fox for building a team that can be competitive. And I know the Bears last year in Chicago beat this Vikings team, but I don't know if Chicago has that kind of defensive firepower, to match Minnesota's. Because I'll take AP over Forte. I'll take Bridgewater over Cutler right now. And I think the Vikings defense is better than the Bears. Again, 17 points per game. The Bears are 31st in scoring defense. They're allowing 29 points a game. And Minnesota is also undefeated in the division. They're 2-0. So I gotta take that into consideration. The Bears are 0-2. So yeah, I guess of all that combination of just talent, momentum, kind of mindset, and record, that's why I'm going to take the Vikings to beat the Bears, just because I think the Vikings defense can clamp down on this Bears defense enough, and they can run the ball with AP, who's had monster games against the Bears in the past, and I think he'll be able to rip this Bears defense once again, and they're going to get their 2nd straight road win and their 3rd straight win overall. I'm sorry. 3rd straight win overall. Unbelievable for the Vikings that they're going to be, possibly 5-2. But that's what I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Chicago Bears. Arizona over Cleveland. This was pretty simple. Cleveland, they laid a giant egg against the Rams. They kept fumbling. McCown had a shoulder injury. Travis Benjamin, Andrew Hawkins is in concussion protocol. They let Todd Gurley run for over 120 yards. First rookie running back in the history of the NFL to have over 120 yards rushing in his first 3 NFL starts. Congratulations to you, Mr. Gurley. You are panning out by the game, and you are showing that you were worth that number 10 overall pick. But when I look at this team, it just kind of like Joe Hayden's still out, Sean Gibson still out. It's just like Arizona just has too much talent to not beat this Browns team. Like I almost look at the Browns and the Ravens who beat us. It's kind of the same thing. Is that Arizona just has too much firepower in every asset of the game that they should be able to beat this Browns team. Can the Browns be competitive? Sure. Before this Rams game, They played the Chargers, Broncos, right, and the Chargers, Ravens, and Broncos extremely tough. So I'll give Cleveland a little bit of a chance. If they can play up to their potential, they might be able to give Arizona a little bit of a run, especially after they're coming off the game tonight. But then they have to worry about their big game against Seattle next week in Seattle. But yeah, I'm going to take the Cardinals in this game just because this Arizona team is just way too loaded. Even if they lose to to the Ravens, if they lose to Flacco, what he can do. McCown's much worse than Flacco. So even if they somehow stumble and lose their second straight game in their first game at home all year. No, I think that's right. No, wait, their second, right? Because they lost to the Rams. They lose their second game at home. They'll be even more motivated, and they'll probably beat the crap out of the Browns. So that's what I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals to beat the Cleveland Browns. San Diego at Baltimore. For me, this kind of hurts because I was really disappointed in San Diego after having the two games that they had the last 2 weeks at Green Bay and in the home game against the Steelers, where they were literally about in the Green Bay game, they were 5 yards away from tying it, and in the Pittsburgh game, they were 7 yards away from winning it. I thought that they would be motivated and angry, and I thought they'd want to take it out on the Oakland Raiders, who were coming off with a demoralizing loss against the Broncos themselves. But boy, was I wrong. They ended up losing 37-29, but they were down at one point, I think 37-6. So and that was like in the late third quarter. So basically, I know they got outscored 23-0, or 23-3, in the fourth quarter, But to me, that was just garbage time. I think everybody could agree with that. That was just garbage time. The Raiders knew that they had basically a little lead that the Chargers couldn't, overcome. And that was the reason why the Raiders kind of allowed it to happen. But I look at this game and say San Diego just has just too many offensive weapons. Too many offensive weapons that I just don't think the Baltimore defense can handle. We're 27th. We have the 27th worst pass defense in the NFL. We have I think we have the 26th defense in points allowed. I don't think, Floyd and Allen going up against our corners, that's going to be, a bit of an edge to them. Also, we have Phillip Rivers, who last year came into Baltimore and got his first win as a Charger, or the first one for the franchise in San Diego to go into Baltimore and win. And I just feel like, again, it's kind of something where this game is shouting what this, to me as a Ravens fan, I'm going to speak a little bit personally here, is what it's all about. Do I think the Ravens, can give the Chargers a game? Absolutely. We've given everybody that we've played a game. We have not lost a game by more than 6 points this whole year. So, I can say this. If there are about, let's say, 4 plays a game, if 20 plays go our way or don't go the other team's way, we could be 6-0. But to quote the great Bill Parcells, your record tells you what you are, and we are 1-5, and we probably going to be 1-6 after tonight. And that's the thing. I think San Diego, they can just outshoot us. Can we get a good enough pass rush on them that Rivers can get rattled a little bit? Yeah, we can. We still have enough talent around there, and we can make some plays. But if you're telling me right now with Rivers talent that he has and the way they've been playing compared to what the Ravens have been doing, I'll take Phillip Rivers in that kind of shootout right now. I think he'll be he's angry, he's motivated to play a much better game, and they should be able to win a very high scoring possible shootout type game in Baltimore in this game. So that's what I'm going to take San Diego to beat Baltimore. All right, here we go. Big game. Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Give me a minute or two here, folks. I'm going to talk about the Buccaneers. Like I said earlier, I am 7-6 this week. The two games that I kind of went against most people were I took the Texans to beat the Dolphins. I have nothing to say about that because I was dead wrong. Okay? And I'm not even going to call it a decisive victory. If you watch my videos, I have a scale. And it fell on that 10 to 20 scale. But that was all in garbage time after they get a 41-0 lead. So, yeah, I'll ignore that. The Tampa game, I should have gotten that game. Okay? And I know what I just said. Okay? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. It didn't happen. But the Buccaneers choked their second largest lead in franchise history. Second. They had a 25-point lead. I don't exact, but they had a 25-point lead once, and they blew that. Okay? And let me just say this to all the Buccaneers fans out there. It is time at the end of the year to fire Lovie Smith. Okay? Because, let me explain this. Okay? Lovie Smith is one of the most overrated coaches in the NFL today. Okay? I just realized this maybe, over the last couple years. Or this year. Okay? Let me explain. This man in Chicago, when he got the job in 2004, only made the playoffs 3 times in 9 seasons. 3. I know one was a Super Bowl berth. And a lot of credit to him that he got Rex Grossman to a Super Bowl. But after that, I think he only won one other playoff game after that. Okay, he might have won one more. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that was the game against the Seahawks back in 2010. But he only made the playoffs 3 of 9 years. This man, in a 9-year span, averaged a record of 9-7. He was 81-63 in 9 years. Okay, that's not horrible, but it's not that great. And right now, he is 4-18 as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach. 4-18. So, if you add that up, that puts him at 85-81. In 166 games, he is 85-81. Okay? And also, I just remember this. He didn't, in Chicago, he was a guy that, didn't even care about the Super Bowl. He said, our number one goal was to beat the Green Bay Packers. You know what his record all time against the Green Bay Packers is? 7-13. I'm including the loss at Tampa last year. He is 7-13 all time against the Packers. So how successful was he in his first goal as a head coach of the Bears? Not very well. This is a guy from the Dungy tree, okay? But I'm going to say he is an uninspiring, unenergetic, unpassionate coach that has no leadership in him that can help this team get over the hump. So, and this is, and maybe Bucs fans are going to be angry. Oh, Lovey's done so many great things. Are you sure that wasn't Dungy? Because isn't his calling card defense? And he let Kirk Cousins complete a franchise record, or tie a franchise record with 33 completions? Okay? Because it wasn't the offense's fault. Winston had 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. They outran, I think, the Redskins, 150 to, 40. It was something where they outgained on the ground the Redskins by about 100 yards. And Mike Evans had 160 yards. And that was about Lewis Murphy and Vincent Jackson that sat out the game. So, don't blame the offense. This is all on Lovey. Okay? And like I said, give him to the end of the year, but the Bucs should fire Lovie Smith. Because he has no room. Okay? If they have another losing game, he has no room. He got 2 quarterbacks. Okay? He brought him, the manager brought him a count, and they drafted Winston. He had some input in that. They've had Evans and Jackson. They got a 6-foot tight end that's injury prone. Okay? They have, they drafted the offensive line. Okay, they're still trying to gel. They brought in Logan Mankins. I can go on and on and on. But this team is still sucking. And this, to me, just goes all on the head coach. Okay? So, to me, the Bucs fans just realize that Lovie Smith is one of the most overrated coaches in the NFL. And I just gave you a bunch of numbers that supported that, okay? And if anybody wants to come after me and says I'm being too harsh, go ahead. I have my numbers, and you have your thoughts, and, come back at me if you want. But again, I feel sorry for Bucs fans today. This is a painful day to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. And like I said, just realize, and you might say that I'm being in spite just because of what happened. And maybe a little bit I am, just because you just can't blow a lead like that. But there's my little diatribe on Tampa. The reason why I'm going to take Atlanta in this game is just because Tampa's, I guess it's just something where I looked this up. Matt Ryan is 10-4 all time against the Atlanta Falcons, or against the Tampa Buccaneers. They swept the Buccaneers last year. And it's just something where, look, even though I am concerned about the Falcons, I'll put it this way. The fact that you only scored a grand total of 10 points, 10, against the Tennessee Titans, that's a problem, because you have the leading running back in the NFL in yards in Devontae Freeman with 624. You have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in Julio Jones. And you have Roddy White still there. You have, if it wasn't for Zach Mettenberger throwing a horrible interception in the red zone, you might have lost that game. So I know the Falcons are 6-1, but this game really put some trepidation on their whole year going, you got to 6-1. No, kudos to them. I understand that's a game that you should have won decisively, because you just have way too much talent in all phases of the game. Okay, maybe even the kudos to Dick LeBeau for really transforming this Titans defense, because, besides the game against Indy, that was a shootout, and then they got one, and then the Dolphins game last week. He's really made this defense play a lot better than it was last year under Horton. But I'm going to take Atlanta just because I can't go against that record, and as good as the Titans defense is, that's how bad the Bucs defense is. They're the worst defense in points per game, giving up 31, and I just think Atlanta, they have good enough corners. Winston, he's going to get, some pressure. He's going to be in an environment, and even if Winston they have a good game, I don't trust Lovey with his defense to be able to outstop Matt Ryan with his talent. So, again, that's thanks, guys. If you just want to skip over the diatribe, it lasts about 2 minutes. But that's I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. New Orleans over New York. This one to me is just that the Saints seem like they're on a roll. They have a bit of momentum back. And beating the Indianapolis Colts, it was kind of an awkward game because the Saints dominated the Colts for like the first 3 quarters. They were up 27-0, or 20-0 at the end of the half, and they were up 27-0 going into the third quarter. The Colts ended up getting 3 scoring drives back to make the game interesting. But Drew Brees was able to get a big third down conversion to Marcus Colston to ice the game. And I'm just feeling that, again, New Orleans, after that win against Atlanta, they seem like they gained some confidence, some swagger, and they played a very good game for the most part defensively against the Colts. They, looked more sharp, offensively, and it just was a great game. The running game, Mark Ingram had over 130 yards. That was a tremendous thing to see. And I think the Saints team, they're gaining momentum. They got their first road win of the year. Kudos to them. And I just think they're gaining confidence. But, and the reason why I'm going to take them is the New Orleans Saints and the Giants. The Saints have won 3 of the last 4 games against the Giants. And the last 2 games they played in the Superdome, they've beaten the Giants by an average of 23 points. And also New Orleans, has won 2 straight games at home. So maybe the Saints, they can get this one over. They're starting to get that Superdome mojo back that they had, a couple years ago, or they've always had. And the Giants, even though they are 4-3, it was a pretty sloppy 4-3. Matt Castle basically threw the game to Giants, who only had one offensive touchdown the whole game against the Cowboys. One. Because one was a pick six by Cromartie, and the other one that won the game was a kick return that went 100 yards by the former Cowboy, Dwayne Harris. That must have felt good for him. But when, but I'm saying, when you look at this game, Victor Cruz, he might be out again. And again, I will say this, Victor Cruz, they should do one of three things next year. Cut him, trade him, or ask him to take a pay cut. Because he's missed probably now about 14 games? Or 14 straight, almost like 24 straight games, something like that, or over 20 games he's missed consecutively. And, for the contract that he got, a 5-year, $40 million, that's a lot of games to miss to say that he has still earned that contract. But, again, the Giants have one of the worst pass defenses in the league. I think Drew Brees, he's not going to be, the turnover machine that Matt Castle was. He's been playing really solid football as of late. And I just think, again, the Saints, this is a game, the Saints have too much talent going against the defense that they should be able to win. Just because, again, the Giants have looked really shaky over the last 3 weeks. If it wasn't for, a bad drop pick, in the Niner game, they could have lost. They could have lost that. They got thumped by the Eagles. They got thumped by the Eagles 27-7, and they barely won a game where they had 3 turnovers and they only scored 1 offensive touchdown. Could the Giants, put up points on New Orleans? They could. Eli Manning, he's coming home to New Orleans. He gets to see his father Archie. That's a great thing, and I'm pretty sure he'll be happy to be back home. But I got to take the Saints in this one just because I'm feeling some confidence in them that they can get a good enough defense going against that offensive line. They can get some pressure on them. I know they don't have the weapons that Philadelphia or Dallas had, but I think they can do enough. And Brees can do enough against this defense that if it gets into a shootout, I'll take Drew Brees in the dome over Eli Manning on the road. And like I said, they've won 3 of the last 4, and the last 2 games in the dome, they've won by an average of 23 points. Do I think they're going to hit that 23 points now? No. Oh, and I just realized something real quick, little quick aside. Here are my locks for the week, my 3 locks. I'm going to lock in that Arizona beats Cleveland. I'm going to lock in that the Jets beat the Raiders. And I'm going to lock in the Seahawks beat the Cowboys. So there's that. And then, alright, and then time for the next game. Oh, boy. The toilet bowl of the week. Tennessee at Houston. The only reason why I'm taking Tennessee is their defense. Well, there's 2 reasons. Their defense. Tennessee's defense really impressed me against this Atlanta offense. That I think against this Houston offense, which looked pathetic. And one little quick thing about that. I think Bill O'Brien, at the end of this year, he'll probably keep his job because he had a winning record his first year. So they might say, you know what, Bill, you did pretty well. If you get us a quarterback, we'll give you 1 more year. If he has a losing season, he'll be fired after that. But he has to get rid of Hoyer, and he has to get rid of Mount. Okay? And again, I've said in my videos, people, why are you turning on Mount? Well, I was okay with him pouting, and being angry on the sideline. But now that I heard that story about that he missed the team flight, it's like, Ryan, you can't do these things. I know these are minor, but you can't keep doing these things because it's not showing the leadership or the class that you need to be a quarterback in this league. And also, he does have that incident where he overslept and missed the practice. That's just something you can't do in the NFL. I'm sorry. But I think, Bill needs to get rid of both of them. I know he just signed them this year. Both are not really producing at all. And Texas fan might go, well, you just said, they outscored the Dolphins 26-3 in the second half. It was garbage time. Nobody really cared. But again, the reason why I'm going to take the Titans in this toilet bowl type of game is that their defense has played much better than Houston's. Oh, and speaking, congrats for Jadeveon Clowney getting his first sack of his career. Even though, again, it's been one of the longest times that's happened in, history. Mario Williams took 6 fewer games, Jadeveon, to get his first sack. He did it in 4. So, let's just remember that. took Clowney 10 games, took only Mario Williams 4. I digress. But yeah, I'm going to take the Titans to win this game just because I trust their defense and Arian Foster tore his Achilles. Another devastating running back, another devastating, injury loss this year that we've suffered in the NFL. This is sad. No Foster, no Charles. And I will say this to Texans fans. I believe that the Houston Texans, once Arian Foster's contract expires, they should not, and I repeat, not re-sign him. This is a man, and I kind of feel the same way about Jamal Charles if you watch some of my videos when I talk about his injury. I think it's something where he's had too many injuries. This is an injury-prone running back that just keeps having nagging injuries, and now he has this major one that I just can't see him missing all these games and paying him, more money after his contract expires. It's not like he's, a third-string, running back or second-string where you can cut him and say, oh, well, there really wasn't, any harm in that. This is Arian Foster and, like Jamal Charles. Both these guys, and I will say, I don't believe Jamal Charles should be re-signed after this contract because he's had two major injuries. Or he's had two ACL tears in both knees. I believe both guys have done well enough and have earned enough respect to play out their contracts. But do I believe that they should get re-signed? Absolutely not. Because I think these guys have too many injuries that if you put them at 30, 32, they're not going to be that effective as they were back when when they debuted. But again, just a quick thing. I'm going to take the Titans just because of their defense. That's it. The defense and Foster's Achilles injury. Houston won't really have that much offense to deal with. If they double team Hopkins, they pretty much have the game. So, that's what I'm going to take Tennessee to beat Houston. Even though, again, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston beats Tennessee. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. This was really hard for me because Big Ben should be back for this game. And this is a start for a 3-game homestand for the Steelers. They got Cincinnati coming to town, Oakland, and then Cleveland. I believe that they can win 2 of those 3 games. This is the game I expect them to lose. Because they just lost their big left tackle Beach with doing ACL tear. Very unfortunate for that. And they don't have Pouncey still, who's pretty much out for the year. So you got 2 big offensive line holes. Cincinnati's coming off a bye where they're rested. This is their... they're going to go for their first time franchise history 7-0 start when they play this Steeler team. And it's just something to me where, even if Ben comes back, it'll be much more competitive. I just am looking at this Bengals team and saying they've passed every single test that they've had to go through. They beat the Ravens on the road after everybody was thinking, okay, they're 2-0. They can't get past that test. They do that. Then they have Seattle come to town and they beat the 2-time NFC defending champions, coming back with a 17-point deficit. They passed that. And then last week everybody's saying, well, are they going to get hung over from that big of a win? They did not, and they went on to beat the Bills pretty decisively. So, to me, I think the Bengals have checked off every single test they've had to go through, and I believe that they will get past another test when they beat Pittsburgh. They're still angry because they got swept by them last year, and I think Andy Dalton in his career, only has 2 wins. I know he beat him in 2012. I think he beat him one other time, but I'm not sure. He only has 1 or 2 wins all time against the Steelers. And, so there's just a part of me going, I think Cincinnati has too much talent to, especially with Pittsburgh, with Big Ben just coming back. You don't know how that knee is going to respond. I think Cincinnati has just enough talent that they can beat this test and go to 7-0. I believe in this Bengals team. The playoffs, they're still going to be shaky, but this is going to be the year where if they don't do it, Marvin's going to get fired. Because this team can't be this good and end up going 1 and done. It just can't. Again, it should be a great game. I hope Ben plays because I want this game to be, the second best game of the week behind the Green Bay Denver game. But if he doesn't, that pretty much seals it for me. Cincinnati's going to get this win. But I'm going to take Cincinnati just because I think Pittsburgh's offensive line is shaky. Cincinnati's defense is really solid. I I just think the Steelers at this point, they're kind of in an awkward vibe. If they would have beaten the Chiefs like they should have, I think that you could have gained some more confidence, and this game would have been more equally entertaining, competitive. But with a rested Bengal team that's motivated, knows what they're doing, and especially with the motivation that they got swept last year by this team, I think they should be able to get this win and pass another huge test to say that this Bengals team is legitimate and they maybe have finally turned the corner. To being a very good team that can win their first playoff game in over 20 years. So that's why I'm going to take the Bengals to beat the Steelers. The Rams over the Niners. I trust this Rams team in this game. Last year, when they went into San Francisco, the Rams caused 7 turnovers from the Niners. 7. Kaepernick had a pretty awful game, and I know the other guy, Austin Davis, had a pretty awful game. But this is the Rams team that just kind of has this awkward vibe of beating also NFC West teams. They're 2-0 against the NFC West. The Niners have won 2 straight in St. Louis, so there's a little bit of extra motivation. And also, I just look at this Rams team and go, they have Gurley. And because both quarterbacks, have had their high moments and have had their low moments. I think I could argue that both guys have had more low moments than highs. Kaepernick, they only completed half his passes for about 200 yards. He didn't even run. That was the first time in his career on Thursday where he didn't even run, which was amazing. But I just look at it and go, the Rams are undefeated against the NFC West. They have a much better running back in Gurley than what I've seen out of Carlos Hyde. And I think Foles, if they can get enough pressure on Kaepernick, they can get Kaepernick to throw turnovers and get sacked. Could Nick Foles do the same thing against the Niners defense? He could. Nick Foles, he only threw for about 130 yards, like I said earlier. He didn't have that. He had a pretty Teflon or kind of pathetic offensive game. He got the win, but he really didn't do anything to get the win. He only threw for about 130 yards. It was the defense in the running game that got him the win. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Rams because I feel like they have a better defense right now. That offensive line for the Niners has been extremely shaky. They gave up 6 sacks to the Seahawks on Thursday night, and they gave up 3.5 to Michael Bennett. Aaron Donald or Robert Quinn could do that same thing. And I just have confidence in this Rams team, that this Rams team, just in these kind of games, they always seem to play well. And they're at home. So that's just kind of the cherry on top. There's another home game for the Rams. They are, 2-1 at home. I'll take that. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to take the Rams to beat the Niners. The Jets over the Raiders. The Jets have won 3 of the last 4 games against the Oakland Raiders. And I kind of feel like the Jets, they have a defense that is going to shut down the Raiders' offense. Because Derek Carr had a very good game. He had a Derek Carr type game that people expect him to play, that he can play. He get about 300 yards and about 3 touchdowns, no picks. Very good game, very clean game by him. It did help that they did get 2 picks by Phillip Rivers. But I just don't expect, with how he played against the Broncos, who have the number 1 defense in the league, this Jets team is still number 2 in yards allowed. And besides that game against the Patriots, I don't think they've given up 30 points the entire year. I don't get it. They haven't given up 30 points. And I don't think this Raiders offense has enough firepower, or Carr's not good enough to beat up Revis and Cromartie. I think I take Revis over Cooper, and then I'll take Cromartie over Crabtree. And their run defense, they can get down. They can shut down Murray pretty well. Again, it should be a very competitive game. I'm excited. You got 2 highly impressive competitive teams that are in great positions. One's at 4-2, the other one's at 3-4. and it should be a great game. But I just think, again, the Jets, they just have too much defensive firepower that the Chargers did not have. And if Fitzpatrick throws interceptions, which he still can, even though, again, Ryan Fitzpatrick, this is the best year I've seen him play ever. He's made very few mistakes. He hasn't got hit that much. He's made a lot of great decisions. But again, I'm going to take the Jets. There's too much defensive firepower that this Raider team just can't overcome, in my opinion. Let's see. That's the thing. The Jets over the Raiders. Seattle over Dallas. Seattle got a huge win over the Niners. Or huge confidence building win. Maybe not the most impressive resume. But Seattle, they're motivated. They realize what the next game's ahead of them. They can get to 500 at their bye, which would be a great sticking point, which is pretty much where you want to be. They're motivated because Dallas beat them last year in Seattle. In that big upset, 30-23. And also, I just thought this little fun stat. Ever since the second half of the Atlanta Falcons game, the Dallas Cowboys have been outscored, ladies and gentlemen, 52-6 in the last 6 quarters at home. 52-6. Do I think that Matt Castle, with no or hopefully Des can come back for them? But Matt Castle threw 3 interceptions against the Giants defense. If that Legion of Boom can play like the way they can, he can get another 3 interceptions or even more against the Seattle defense. Marshawn Lynch is back, and the Giants were able to pound the ball pretty effectively with Vereen and Darkawa, who got his second touchdown of the year in the game. So kudos for him. But again, I think Seattle, they just have too much of a bruising running game. Even though kudos to Darren McFadden for breaking out yesterday and having a big game. But yeah, I'm going to take Seattle. Just too much defensive firepower. This Dallas team is not really good at home. They are, let's see here, I think 5-4, and then you have, 5-4, and then 5-5. They're 5-6 in their last 11 home games. So, kudos to them, for trying to be competitive, and kudos for Castle for playing better than Whedon and kind of making some throws and that Whedon wouldn't do. But if Castle plays like he did, he can get another 3 picks against the Cowboys or against Seahawks very easily. So that's why I'm going to take Seattle to beat Dallas. Green Bay over Denver. This is the game of the week, and right now, the game of the year. 2 6-0 teams going at it. First time since 2007 when the 6-0 Patriots visited the 6-0, 6-0 or better teams are facing each other. I think the Patriots and Colts were 9-0 when they faced off. And it comes down for me for this. Green Bay has a good enough defense. It's not better than Denver's, but they have a good enough defense to stop Peyton Manning's offense. Peyton Manning is tied with Sam Bradford for the league lead in interceptions with 10. He's had to, and I think I said last week, they've scored 48 points on offense. They've scored about 65 on kicking and defense. They've played quarterbacks like Alex Smith, Matthew Stafford, Flacco to a degree, Teddy Bridgewater, Derek Carr, and Josh McCown. None of those quarterbacks, including Flacco, are Aaron Rodgers. I don't expect Aaron Rodgers. If this defense can shut down this Packers offense, even though that they don't have Jordy and they might not have Devontae, but he should play. He's been basically off. This Packers offense is just too powerful with Rodgers at the helm with the way he's been playing that he can beat this Broncos defense enough, and he won't make the mistakes or the big scoring mistakes that those other quarterbacks have. Could Denver win this game? Yeah, he could. They could. If Peyton can put up a game, he can look at what Phillip Rivers did. He has enough talent around that he can put up what Phillip Rivers did. But I think Green Bay's defense is good enough that they can hold the Denver's offense enough for Rodgers to be able to do his work and play because he's played at a much higher level, that they will get this win and go to 7-0 and knock out the undefeated Broncos from the undefeated Rams. Should be a great game. I'm excited for this game. This is the game of the week. This is the game that I'm most excited to watch. But again, I'm going to take the Packers because they have a good enough defense to stop this Broncos offense to get the win, because Rodgers will do what Rodgers always does. So that's I'm going to take Green Bay to beat Denver. And then finally, Carolina or Indianapolis. Carolina is like Minnesota in the undefeated. Or like when I said about 4-2s. This is a team that, they're 6-0, but they don't do it, in the most pretty way. But they're 6-0. They're, gritty on defense. Cam, has basically looked at this team. Like I said, he's the third best quarterback in the league right now. I will admit that. Even though, again, he had a pretty awful game against Philadelphia. But Philadelphia's defense is pretty good. And, but again, that's an indictment on Sam Bradford for the fact that he had 2 more turnovers and they still couldn't do anything. And by the way, the Eagles, once again, only scored 1 offensive touchdown. Wow, that's great. And also, DeMarco Murray, I think, only had about 50 yards again. So, not really that good for the Philadelphia offense chip. But I digress. But I look at Carolina. They just have a good enough defense. Andrew Luck threw another 2 interceptions. I think now I think Luck now has about 10 interceptions with him. He might have 1 less than that. And I just think Carolina, they have enough talent. They know how to, they know how to play games. They know how to get teams to play their kind of game. And I think Indy, is reeling. I think Indianapolis can, will lose again and drop to 3-5 and drop to their most losses, or tie for their most losses in 8 weeks that they've had in the whole Chuck Pagano era. They've gone 11-5 3 straight years. I don't think they're going to go 11-5 this year. I think they're going to be worse than that. But again, it should be an interesting game. I want to see how Luck does. But this Carolina team is just too confident. They're too talented, just on defense. Cam's doing enough on offense. I don't think they'll be able to stop Cam on the ground. And also, they just lost Philip Dorsett to an ankle injury. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. That's a bit of a blow. A bit, because he really hasn't been productive. But yeah, that's why I'm going to take Carolina to beat Indianapolis. So that's it for my picks this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. And put in the comment section, guys, any questions you have for me about any game, or just have any thoughts about anything I said. And also, guys, check out the NFL YouTube prognosticators page. Shout out to guys like Gio Knows, Billy B, King Poetic, Bridgewater's Finest, Master Chief Hill from JustMyPicks.com, Andrew Warren, a big Patriots fan. He's really good at his predictions. The football guru John Glover, Mason Cole, and I'm trying Stephen Coleman, Half Moon. Sorry for your lines, buddy. The Mass Tweeter. I'm really angry at your Redskins, buddy, for making that comeback. But we can talk about that individually if you want. And check out all the other great NFL YouTube prognosticators on the NFL YouTube prognosticators page. Any of my viewers that are beside the prognosticators, if anybody that wants to join our group, let the guys know. And that's it. So good luck to all teams, players, coaches, fellow fantasy players like myself and millions of other people, and fellow prognosticators. And until next week, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic signing off. Until next week, so long.